Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take a minute to remember the 157 lives lost in the ill-fated Ethiopian Airlines plane, which crashed in the morning of 10th of March. Among them were 21 UN personnel, including Max Tabiso Edkins from the World Bank, who supported tonight's event. As youth, we would also like to recognize the tragic loss of the young delegates who were coming to join us at the UN Environment Assembly and who were not able to join us tonight. 4 Canadian youth were among the delegates we are mourning. They were part of the delegation of the United Nations Association of Canada, an NGO accredited to the United Nations Environment Assembly. We send our condolences to the people of Canada and to the families of Stephanie Lacroix, Micah Messent, Danielle Moore, and Angela Rahorn. We would like to pay tribute to their dedication, hard work, enthusiasm, and spirit. Please, join me and stand to observe a minute's silence. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And it's such a great honor to have all of you here in this room with us. My name is Miranda Wang, and I am a UN Young Champion of the Earth representing North America. I am also a social entrepreneur, the co-founder and CEO of a company called BioSelection, which is inventing and commercializing a novel chemical recycling technology to turn currently unrecyclable plastic waste into valuable chemicals. And today here with me is my partner and my friend Gator Helborn, who is also a UN Young Champion of the Earth representing South America. And Gator is also a social entrepreneur who is working on innovative ways to restore our coral reefs and bring them back to life through his organization, Coral Vida. The Young Champions of the Earth Prize is a forward-looking prize designed to breathe life into the ambitions of brilliant young environmentalists. The applications for the Young Champions of the Environment will be open still for the next 2 weeks, and we encourage all of you here to bring the news back to your communities, to your countries, and advise and inspire the youth to apply for this prize. It's going to be open for 2 more weeks. We're proud to now present the 2019 competition launch video.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's been said, nothing's more powerful than an idea whose time has come. But one thing is more powerful: the people who make that idea a reality. The ones brave enough to leave behind old formulas, who dare to invent the future. Nonconformists, disruptors, innovators, making new tools and forging new careers. They come from every corner of the globe, different in every way but one. They are young, and they know tomorrow belongs to those who see beyond today. In the breakdown, they see a chance for breakthrough, for people, for planet, and maybe even profit. The United Nations is seeking inspired young problem solvers with big, bold ideas for the environment, for humanity, for a greener future. Does that sound like you? If chosen as a UN Young Champion, you'll be connected with accomplished mentors, customized training, and seed funding to turn your dream into a reality. Is this your chance to lead a new wave of green careers? To step up and make a difference? There's only one way to find out. Come see if you have what it takes to become a young champion of the earth.
Today, we're here for the Youth to Power dialogue. This is the only panel that includes only youth and young people during the 2019 UN Environment Assembly. We are the leaders of tomorrow, and we're being handed an environmental crisis of epic proportion. Tonight, on the eve of the largest global climate march in human history, we're bringing all of you here to talk about the opportunity to engage youth in the fight against environmental crisis. Some of the questions that we're going to explore today and encourage all of you to be part of the discussion are where are we today in terms of youth engagement? Why is youth engagement urgent at this point, and what is missing? What is it going to take for youth to be taken seriously? And how do we move forward collectively to save this one planet that we all share? Tonight, let's bring youth to power. Please join us in welcoming our panelists for this evening.
It's great to be here in Nairobi with you all. I'm super excited for the conversation we're having tonight and for this inspiring panel that we have with us. A lot of change makers here are doing amazing things for our world and for our environment. To briefly introduce them, from your left to right, we're starting with Selena Abraham. Selena is the Global Landscapes Forum youth leader, a true global citizen that actually coordinates an initiative of over 50,000 young people around the world who are working on and studying landscapes. Nick, yeah, please. Next we have Hugh Weldon, my friend and fellow young champion of the earth for this year from Europe. Hugh has developed a smartphone app named Ivaco, which actually enables you to take a picture of your food shopping receipt and see what climate impact you had while you went shopping. It can then teach you how you personally can lower that climate impact by making different consumer choices. Please welcome Hugh. In the middle, we have Kaya Dori. Kaya is a young champion from 2017 and the creator of the Novel Supply Company, a sustainable clothing company that makes awesome clothes. You guys should all check it out, made out of natural, organic cotton and hemp. She's an advocate for sustainable fashion and ethical production. Thanks. Next is Dee Potsoa. She's a Connect for Climate youth ambassador. She lives and works in South Sudan advocating for climate change action. And she joins us after having just climbed Mount Kenya to raise awareness for climate change. Last but not least, we have Mohsin Gul, who was born in Pakistan, and he is currently getting his PhD at Oxford. You may have seen him around at just about every single side event that happened here at UNEA as the lead author of the Global Environmental Outlook for Youth report. Thanks for joining us, Mo.
Thank you, Gator. So I'm going to start by just describing how we're going to run tonight. Tonight we're going to have 3 sections to our discussion focused on exploring kind of where we stand right now, what youth engagement means, how urgent it is that we get youth engaged to tackle environmental problems, and also what solutions are we going to take away from this session. This evening event is designed to be very dynamic, and it means even if you're not sitting on stage, This is also an event for you, and we want to hear your voices. So for every single topic, we're going to actually ask some of our panelists to start off. We kindly ask that you limit what you have to say to about 3 minutes. And then what we will do is we'll open it up to discussion from the floor. Whether you're a VIP in the room, sitting in the front, or anybody here who has other ideas, who have questions, please raise your hand and we'll rush a mic over to you. And we actually have a drum over there. That's going to keep the time to 90 seconds. That is our only rule. Now, when you hear that drum beat, that means your 90 seconds has come to an end, and we kindly ask you to wrap up your thought there. So these are the only rules for tonight. So let's be honest, let's be direct, and let's have a great conversation.
We're also going to try, as the young panel, to bring a bit of technology into the session tonight. And so we'll be doing periodic polls throughout the session to try to gauge what the audience thinks about certain subjects. And so please, if you could now pull out your smartphones and go to this link that you see here on the screen. When you go to that link, pollev.com/youth2power, 2 is a number, a poll should come up. And as soon as you guys start answering these polls, we'll see the results up there on the screen. The first poll that you'll come to, pretty simple. Hopefully you can all answer, how old are you? Perhaps your ability to figure out the tech and actually answer this poll will somewhat depend on which age category you fall into, but hopefully you can all figure it out pretty quickly here. So as you can see, a lot of youth in the room tonight. Thanks for showing up, youth. Appreciate that. And we're definitely joined by a lot of leaders who are, VIPs in the front to the back who've been really shaping the agenda and the delegations in the UNEA this week. So thank you all so much for coming. So with that kind of test poll, we're going to shift now to our second poll, which hopefully will lead us into a little more discussion. So you should see the next one. Maybe you have to refresh your phones. There you are. No surprise, we have a lot of youth. So a little surprising here, not sure we all got it. The delegates are the people who were actually in the rooms making the choices on what resolutions were going to happen. Not sure if that was totally clear. But if you said you were a delegate actually crafting the resolutions and are under 30, you could go to the bottom of the poll and change your answer if that happened to be a mistake. Quickly receding there. So, technology hiccups aside, I think the point we were trying to make is that over the course of this week at the UN, there was a lot of discussions. I don't know if you went in to see the governments arguing about the facts back and forth, but rarely were the people actually speaking under the age of 30. And so I think that kind of leads us into our discussion tonight on how can we really be engaged as young people, to have our voices heard, and to really make an impact in this climate change movement and not wait around until we're actually the delegates in the room ourselves.
Yeah.
So with that, hopefully we can start a fruitful discussion and a lively one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gator. Yeah, so the first question that we're going to explore tonight is, where are we today in terms of involving youth in the decision-making process when it comes to environmental issues? and what do we need to do? And so my first question goes to our panelist, Mo. Mo, could you please just comment on when we say youth engagement today, what do we mean? And you've done a lot of academic work in this space. Share some of your thoughts with us. Does it work?
I don't know. Yeah, it
Okay,
does.
great.
Well, thank you so much. I feel very privileged to be here and representing a lot of young people. And to me, the term youth engagement offers so much in scope and breadth. And often people reduce youth to the single homogeneous group of people. But youth is as diverse as any other demographic group. And this is something decision makers now need to move away from this rhetoric of empowering just a certain population group which they consider youth. But it is represented in so many different subgroups, and from ethnic minorities to LGBTIQ to religious minorities to so much so forth. And we have to give voice to so many of these people. I think in my research around 15 countries in Asia Pacific region, one thing which was for sure and as represented in the data, we haven't really moved beyond the tokenistic rung on the ladder of participation. If we really want to effectively integrate youth engagement, we have to start thinking, okay, this group is not there to just support us, this group is actually there to help us solve issues and make decisions for us, because we are 60% of the world's population. If we do not engage us, you will never be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And when you say leaving no one behind, well, you can't go on with leaving 60% of the population. So that's for sure. But then how to do it is another question. In case of environment, in my research, what I found was mostly people just talk about young people going and planting trees. So it's very basic right now. They don't really give them the actual power to start their own sustainable businesses and give them those enabling environment or support infrastructure where they could actually be doing the work which adults so far think that they are best suited to do. So apart from that, I think it's equally important that we identify new avenues of participation. For example, UN Environment gave young people an opportunity to rewrite the Global Environment Outlook report from perspective of young people for young people. That is one way through which we could internalize those big technical concepts and try to see how young people can help. There are other tools. For example, you always do environment impact assessments for so many projects. Why don't you do a youth impact assessment for every project you undertake? By that, by default, you will have to be engaging young people in the real manner, given that you just don't think of it as a tick box activity, but rather actually focus on creating the impact. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mo. Yeah, so I think you make a really good point in that this is a huge portion of the population, 60%, and we're very diverse. We have all sorts of backgrounds and cultures, and which is to our advantage that we have such a diversity in our way of coming together to work on this. So let's take an example. Selena, this question's for you. We're about to enter the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, where the aim is restoring 350 million hectares of degraded land in the next 10 years. 350 million hectares. That's a huge amount of land. So for something like that, for a goal like that, how do you see us, youth and young people, engaging to be able to take it on?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, this is extremely exciting news for people who work in landscape restoration. But the UN just 2 weeks ago declared the next decade, 2021 to 2030, the decade of ecosystem restoration. And when we look at this, it's exciting, but it's also a massive challenge. And we have to be clear on what it'll take to get there. And what we really need is, it's not, it's more than one organization or tens of organizations who can do this. It's going to need a movement, a mass movement of young people, of investors, consumers, indigenous peoples. It's going to take all of us. And so that's really the heart of the work that I do. And I work with the Global Landscapes Forum because youth are going to be the determining factor on whether we succeed or not. When we're talking about the long game, we're talking about 11 years from now, 2030. And so I want to really take a chance to look concretely at this because it's easy to talk about youth, easier to draft policies, and the challenge always comes in implementation. So if we look at Africa, for example, where the majority of our work is focused on, there's great young people in each country innovating in agriculture throughout the supply chain, mobilizing their communities to do restoration. And what we've done is try to build a community across Africa of young people so that they can start learning from each other, so that we can start concretely outlining how we're going to contribute to this space. And we're formalizing that in a document that we're calling the Nairobi Action Plan for Forest and Landscape Restoration that includes young people. And more than that, I think it's very important for us to be clear that every time we take an action in any of our work, whether it's small or big, that decision is an opportunity to either perpetuate the current power dynamics, to perpetuate inequality, or it's an opportunity to actively flip the paradigm. And when we're talking about paradigm shifts, we really have to think deeply. Are we continuing to neglect Indigenous people's rights? Are we continuing to disregard the role of young people? Or when I'm taking this action, am I flipping the paradigm? Am I empowering young people? Am I putting them in their place of leadership for something that is their world and is their land? So that is something I really want all of us to take away from today, that it's going to take strategic partnerships, it's going to take everyone together, and I hope that that builds the restoration generation that we'll need to make this decade a success.
Awesome. So we are trying to keep the audience involved here. I'm going to pop a question out to you guys. Hopefully someone will want to take the mic and answer it here. So please, if you do, raise your hand. And remember that you only have 90 seconds until Alex over there starts banging the drum. So it's just a sweet, short answer here. And I want to know your guys' feelings. Like, is this important? Why is it important to get youth engaged in making decisions, in crafting the future of the world? What does the world look like without that? Is that important? I see the second row here, if we could get her a mic.
Get a mic?
My name's Phoenix Fauché. I'm a youth activist, and I personally believe that without the youth contributing to the world, then who's going to make the difference? Who's the one's going to live in the future of our society? Who's the one to change all of these stigmas and misunderstandings if it's not going to be the people living in the world? Eventually, we will become the older generation, and we will become the ones who can't see the future. So I think as our generation, it's our time to take control of our world and to really change it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. One more quick one here.
Hi, thanks. Claire Blanchard from WWF. Einstein said we cannot solve a paradigm in the same, a problem in the same paradigm in which we created it. That's why we need you to solve the paradigm that we've created, so the problem that we've created. But think outside the box and of a different paradigm shift.
Yeah, thank you. And so today, young people also have an incredible ability to broadcast the way we think with social media, with technologies. So we have a very special person who has been using his influence through social media to do exactly that. Carrie Wang. Carrie, thank you for being with us today. So you're only 19 years old, but you can reach more people than anybody else here in this room. That is incredible. You have tens of millions of followers on social media, and in 2015, you set a Guinness World Record for having the most reposted Weibo post. And you've used this incredible platform to advance the environmental message for protection and sustainability to all of your fans. So we want to find out what inspired you to do that. Could we get a mic to Carrie?
I'd like to answer this question in Chinese, so could you help me to translate it?
Yeah, sure, I can help you translate.
Thank you. 首先，我认为，我们青年人是应该有责任的去为我们地球所可持续发展，还有 我们的未来去做出一些努力。
First of all, I believe that young people have the responsibility to work toward, to make an effort toward the sustainability of our planet.
然后呢，在我担任联合国环境署亲善大使的1年中呢，参加了一些环境保护的活动，也让我学习到了很多关于环境保护的一些知识。
As the UNEP Goodwill Ambassador, I've learned a lot recently about environmental problems, and it has made me realize how important it is to use my influence to do something positive for it.
这让我意识到，我们这个星球即将要面临的一个非常紧迫的环境威胁。
This has made me realize that we're confronted with an environmental crisis that we've never faced before.
我一个人确实做不了什么，但是非常幸运的是，在我们这个时代有非常可靠的社交媒体软件，让我可以激励大家去为这个环境保护做出改变，也能够让大家一起去携手去做出对环境保护的一些改变的努力。
As one person, I can't do too much for the environment, but by leveraging the incredible technology of social media, I've been able to bring together a lot of people from around the world to work together toward this cause.
然后让我激励去让我做出这个改变，在使用我的平台，是我想传递给大家在我周围所发生的、所听到的事情。
And I'm using this platform to share with everybody all the things I'm learning and seeing from around me.
我非常感谢我的粉丝，然后呢，也非常希望大家能够跟我一起去为环境问题做出一些改变。那么我相信，只要青年人聚集在一起，然后呢，有着共同的目标，我们就可以做出非常大的成就。谢谢。
And together, I'm very grateful to my fans, and together with everybody, I'm very hopeful and optimistic that we can work together to solve our environmental crisis. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
One more? So to wrap up this segment, I'd like to ask one final question. It could be any member of the audience or if the panelist wants to take it. I'd like to ask if we're doing a good job of engaging all of the youth in the world, or are there certain types of young people that we need to do better to reach out to rural youth, youth without access? Does anybody have any stories or feelings on that? See a couple hands in the back there.
I'm a high school student and a writer. I only have one simple question. And my question is, who should lead the youth in making these changes for the world?
And please give us your name.
Adinda.
Does anybody from the panel or anybody from the audience like to answer that question?
Go for it, Selena, yeah.
Sure. I'm really passionate about this because I think representation is really important in the youth conversation. And young people are it's such a diverse group that we really need to be clear on what it means to engage young people, and just picking one who's under 30 is not enough, and that's not good enough. I think we all have to be clear about that. So having entities that are accountable, so youth organizations that have different modes of essentially, I volunteered for the International Forestry Students Association. And part of my work with the GLF is coordinating the Youth and Landscapes Initiative. And we're very intentional about how we have local associations that feed up their input, their experiences, and vote for the representatives that end up coming to these stages, so that we're not inviting the same people time and time again, that young people have an opportunity to step up, whether they're 18, whether they're 12, that people can have a chance to take the stage, even if it's for the first time. So I think really working in communities is the only way that young people will really begin to take their leadership out. So I think it's really important to focus on community and focus on clear ways of representing them.
Yeah, thank you, Selena.
Great.
And thank you very much, Your Excellency Inger, for being with us today. Can we just make sure our drummer, you are keeping time, right? We're counting on you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm being told that we have the pleasure to invite Miss Amina Mohammed into the room with us. Thank you so much, Amina,
Thank you for being with
here.
us.
The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
We also have Joyce. Joyce, thanks so much.
And we will be calling on you tonight, actually, to get some of your thoughts about this topic of youth engagement and bringing youth to power. Do we want to do one more question
I
to the
think
audience?
maybe it's time, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think we got a good grounding there, and we understand that we need to get youth engaged in this movement to fight climate and to help govern the future of the world. I think what's also clear is that we need to have this happen now. This is an urgent problem. We can't wait a decade, 2 decades to get the youth movement into the climate change fight and into shaping how we live here on this earth. And so I'd like to invite you all to go to the website again where the polls are. We have a poll once more that'll kind of lead us into that discussion. Not sure if it's on your smartphones, but hasn't popped up on the screen quite yet.
Oh, great.
It's the next one.
The next question, please. Yes, it works.
There it is. So a pretty staggering statistic you see there. Most of us, if not all of us, will be alive to see 90% of our world's reefs die. Now that's not if we keep polluting. That's actually if we can commit to the Paris Accord, if we can do what our leaders and our politicians are trying to do and keep the climate from warming below 2 degrees. We still will see 90% of our world's reefs die by mid-century, and they'll continue to die after that. In my lifetime, I'll probably see 99% of reefs die if we don't take urgent action to change this. Droughts will intensify, sea levels will rise, storms will increase. And again, that's if we reach these lofty goals being set by our governments. Many of the ministers creating these paths to a different future will not be here to see the worst effects, but us on stage and many of you in the audience will. And we cannot wait to make this change. We can't wait until we're the delegates in the rooms arguing over, if there's a period or a comma in there. We actually need to take action now. So with that, I'd like to start a conversation about how we could make change urgently while we're still young and while we still have the time to really make a difference and to create a better world. And so with that, I'd like to turn to our panelist, Dee. Dee, would you be able to share with us your take on how we can best engage youth so that they can make an impact?
Thank you very much, Keita. So how do we engage youth? This is just something that I want to share. We have all these wonderful panels and where youth are invited to speak, where we're listened to. But I feel like it needs to go a bit further, It shouldn't just be about the optics. It shouldn't just be about tomorrow's headlines that we had this panel discussion where 5 wonderful youth leaders were present. Youth need to be invited to the table. We need to be listened to, and concrete steps need to be taken in order to make change, in order for our voices to be listened to, because this is the world that we're going to inherit. If no changes are done, we're going to inherit a degraded global planet, and we cannot have that because there is no planet B. This is the only world that we live in, and there's no planet B. And how best to do that? Yes, we should be in such panels, but also I believe, as Kerry also mentioned, that the power of social media can really drive our voices. It can really amplify our voices, because any young person with a smartphone, with access to the internet, they can be an ambassador for change. With just a mere 280 characters of Twitter, we can reach thousands, if not millions, of people. And I was just reading an article the other day that if Facebook was a country, it would have the third highest population in the world. So that's just like on the tip of our fingers. So this is how young people can engage and drive our conversation through social media. It's a powerful tool. Just as tomorrow, what's happening tomorrow? Tomorrow is the school strike, where thousands of young people are going in 105 countries. They're going to strike in order to call for change of climate change. And this was organized through social media. So again, the power of social media. Yeah.
Absolutely, social media could be an effective tool to do that. And there are so many examples other than youth activism where it's been used. UNICEF has been using U-Report method, where they just send a question through Facebook Messenger and young people answer across the globe. We have to develop such ICT embedded tools, and there are efforts being done across the globe where Google and such companies are coming up with artificial intelligence tools to help bring out voices of young people across the board, but this needs to be done at a space where we are picking up the technology. So it has to be as fast-paced as young people. Thank you.
Thank you. So Amina, thanks again for joining us tonight. Sorry for putting you in the spotlight before you've even settled in, but I'm hoping we can get your views on these subjects, and really, could you share with us how you think the passion and power of youth can be harnessed to really make a difference in the now?
Absolutely, already started, haven't you? I think since we had the Paris conference, that's when youth really started to make some impact. I don't think we would have seen some of the ambition in the Paris Agreement if it wasn't for youth. So your voice did make a difference, and it certainly made a difference in the SDGs. Since then, I think we've not really stepped up to the plate in terms of implementing, so we keep talking about youth and the future, the next generation, but as you said, it's absolutely now. The panels are important. I do think your voice needs to be heard, and then I think you need to amplify it when you get out of here. I think representation is still an issue of what are the issues and how can we amplify them at the table. I think you need to demand much more than just sitting at the table. I think that sitting at the table can also get you heard, but nothing happens. I think what you need from that table is input. And that input that you have, you need to carry it into actions. I think we need to be giving you more work to do than we do. And I think we keep waiting for you to grow up, and you're already grown up. So I think that's one way. I think one way is to do that. We have an amazing youth strategy at the UN, which was put together by our youth envoy. And when she came on board just over a year ago, the SG said to her, look, just come in here and be disruptive. What I found was it was incredibly sad to see that she struggled with that. She didn't give up. And she stretched out a number of youth in the UN, and there are not many of them, and came up with a strategy. Can you implement that strategy? It's yours. What will it take to do that? What do you need us to do for that youth strategy to be implemented? Or is it just going to remain a piece of paper? And it was something you were given charge of, and you can do something about. I think the other demands that you need to make are being inside the institutions that actually make the decisions. Not just come to the table, but how are you inside making the change from the inside out, not from the outside in. It doesn't happen. You have to take that step and get into a bureaucracy that will drive you nuts. But by doing that, you will make a change. That's how I started when I advocated for education, and we made so much noise, government said, keep quiet, come in and join us. Now that was a real tough decision, because to join government was, my God, I'm going to get assimilated and begin to sound like them. But the deal was that if I went in, my colleagues in civil society, young people like me, would hang on to me. So they continuously feed me to make that difference. So I think you need to be in the institutions. We're trying to do that at the UN. Sadly, we found that it's incredibly difficult. Women, we're doing not badly with on gender parity, but youth. I mean, women, glass ceiling, youth. I think we have to be honest with ourselves to say that it's a concrete ceiling. So, at the table, in the institutions, actually mobilizing at the country level. This global coming together energizes us. It gives us a little bit more muscle to go back to our countries to do. But I think we have to have a lot more courage at the country level to really tackle the issues with clarity. What is it that you want to go after? The Global Citizen had a concert in South Africa not long ago, but they were asked to do a couple of things. And there was a health issue that young people felt very strongly about, and they just didn't know how to go about it. Well, I think they actually blocked a couple of phones of some very serious ministers, and in the end, the ministers gave them what they wanted. So I think you have to be a little bit more innovative about the activism that you use to try to get yourself heard and decisions made. So be disruptive, and I think, put fire to our feet. This is what we need. It is, as you said, now. I'm just looking at your, there was a chart there that said, how old will you be by 2050? And I thought, I better keep quiet here. But I certainly probably won't be alive. But you will be. But I think the alive that you need to be is now. I think there is another question. What are you prepared to do about your footprint? Because that footprint is pretty brown. The consumption issues are pretty big. And I've seen lots of innovative suggestions on how you could do that with the plastics or with clothing, but it goes much beyond that. It's to our food, it's to where you live, it's to how you consume. These are all big issues that only you can change the markets. Only you. The markets will not change themselves. When I walk through airports today, on my mind is consumption, 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 because you don't want to spend going through an airport, but by the time they've marketed, they got into your pocket and you spent. So how do you change the market that you actually ask businesses to change their business models, to find the things that we need and not that we want at the cost of the planet?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for those extremely powerful insights. It's great to hear a leader like yourself telling us to put your feet to the fire, to cause disruption. I think that's completely clear, and we'll, in the next section of our panel, get into some of those solutions you talked about. How can we limit consumption, change lifestyles, really make the shift we need to create the world we need? So thank you very much.
Yeah, so now we'd like to open up for everybody in the room to offer some thoughts and ask some questions. I already see some hands in the back. Can we get a mic to the gentleman here? Yeah, you.
Hi everyone. My name is Anthony David, and I would like to answer your question about what are we going to do to address the youth in the local areas. So what we are doing actually is in Kenya, we are trying to, come together as much as we can to sensitize our youth empowerment initiatives. So as Madam Amina has actually said, it's us to do something. So we must structure ourselves. Don't you think so? UN Women are structured. Do we have a UN Youth thing that we also need to have our own event? We actually call for a week. We just talk about youth issues. I think that is the best thing. Then we come up with policies or the things that we need to do for ourselves. Because the only thing that we don't do is we don't talk. We don't have structures. We cannot, everyone is working alone. You come up with an idea, you wake up and do your own thing. When will we as youth be structured? When will we actually create synergies within our youth space that, we can talk across the globe? Because that's the only thing that me and you need to sit down and actually work on. Thank you.
No, thank you. And so, could I get an opinion? Oh, I see hands in the back. We'll take one more hand in the back, and then I have a question for those of you in industry.
Hi, my name's Alice. I think this is an amazing event. Thank you for hosting. I just want to pick up on the point about getting youth into the institutions that actually make change. And I'm going to say maybe a slightly controversial point in this room, but the fact that the UN still don't pay their interns, I think, is a real issue, because the lucky interns in the room, including myself, have come from backgrounds where I've been able to go to university, have been able to save or be given the possibility to come here. But for all those youth out there that haven't had that possibility, there's no way they're going to enter institutions like the UN. So I think really I'd ask anyone here that's got a high position in the UN to really consider that and make sure at the least you're giving scholarships to people that really want to be here but can't. Thank you.
So we've heard from youth, we've heard from the leaders of our today. I want to hear from industry. So could we get someone from industry to volunteer to weigh in on what is actually going to take for us to create the change that we need, including engaging youth?
A couple hands in the back there.
Good evening. My name is Arcadius from Nairobi, and I have a different kind of opinion. And my opinion is there's a gap between those who have slightly white or gray hair and those who are born. So, as I'm about to exit my youthness, I believe the youth who are who have fewer youth years remaining should actually take up the mast and try to educate these young youth who have never received a love letter, who received their love messages on WhatsApp. Because for them to reason with this older generation that never used a smartphone in their youthness, it's kind of a challenge. So for me, I would say we need to, as the youth who are almost exiting, we need to take up that initiative. Because yes, we've done our mistakes in college and university, and now we know where we want to be in life. So we need to mentor these other youth. Because as much as we can have my good young man from China with 20 million followers, unfortunately, that one person whose one signature or voice can make opinion does not reach him, I don't think we have achieved what we want to achieve. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Before we move on, I really want to echo that question again. Can we get a volunteer from industry to share about how youth can be engaged in this next era? Anyone?
We got one here in the middle on the left from industry in the black dress. Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah, thanks for volunteering.
Hi, I'm not sure what you mean by industry, but I will talk to you as a graphic designer. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, do you consider yourselves as consumer having a huge voice because you're driving the trends? And these trends can be either fantastic or bad. They can have a huge environmental impact. So working as a graphic designer and in branding, I have seen a lot of change of the product that is coming in, and also how it's produced, what materials are being used, how it's being printed, everything. And I'm really happy to see a huge change from since I started working to now. And that goes for everything, for food, for clothes. We just need more of that. So the more you have that, the more you follow the good trends, your voice will be heard, and that will have a huge environmental impact. It's not just about being part of conversations. Every individual can do something for the environment just by the way they live, the way they buy, just by the simplest things.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah.
So we have some representatives from WWF in the room tonight, I've been told. And I'm hoping that someone from WWF would speak to how WWF is making youth a priority and how we're trying to get young people connected and shaping the conservation movement. A microphone at the front here, please.
And reminder, please introduce yourself at the beginning.
I didn't expect this, but thank you very much. So yes, I'm Marco from WWF International. I give you one example that I learned, remembering actually when I was a young person myself, but also from my teenage son. Hi, Kenji. It's his name. Don't tell young people what to do. Don't even try. And so on the 30th of March, WWF, as every year, is launching the Earth Hour. It's an initiative that tries to pull together a lot of people, speak loudly, take action, join forces, share ideas, and is completely open source. We don't have anything to tell you. We just give you a platform, grab it, join it. But let me just say, guys, join forces. I go back to the point that somebody made before. Pull together. You need to be felt, and you need to be heard very loud. And numbers matter, believe me. When you want to push governments, businesses to change behaviors, numbers matters. So pull together, join forces, and we have the strapline WWF we just approved a few months ago, Together Possible. That's the way, together possible. So join forces and push hard. Thank you.
Yeah, so we also heard, I mean, from all of the plastic art that everybody has seen, the flip-floppy crew is here. And we just wanted to ask somebody from the crew to talk about this and how their project's an example of engaging youth to tackle the environmental crisis of plastic pollution. Is somebody from the crew?
Flip-floppy over here.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So there's a rather large boat made out of old toothbrushes on the other side of the road. I think about 20 years ago, a lady walking down the beaches of Lamu saw a young boy playing with an old flip-flop, and he had put a straw in it, and he had cut out his plastic bag, and he was pushing it along in the water. And 20 years later, the lady who saw that young boy established a very successful company. It changed ownership, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the point. But successful enough to have a gift made from one of these beautiful flip-flops and given to the Pope when he visited Kenya. 20 years later, we've got a boat made from toothbrushes outside there, and she sails well. She's 10 meters long. She's entirely made of recycled plastic, and she's covered in about 30,000 flip-flops. And when we set off for the expedition, to pay tribute to all these young children in Lamu, we sponsored a competition where they sail their little boats, and they make these beautiful bigger boats out of bottles, and they pack them in sacks and things. But just standing in this room, there's something that comes more apparent to me. And this is a challenge for us as the flip-floppy team, and maybe this is a challenge for everyone over here, is how do we ensure that young man's idea or young girl's idea goes through with that young person? It could be an elderly woman. It could be the lady on the side of the road who's making some rare object out of a bunch of trash or whatever it is, and the idea is seen, and someone comes along and says, amazing. We never set out to build this boat to do anything commercial with it. We simply set out to build this boat to pay tribute to all these other wonderful ideas and to bring awareness to a very big issue of our time. But I think we have a lot more to do. And there's the drum.
Thank you.
All right, so we're now going to move into, we've covered a lot, and we're just scratching the surface here, right? This is a very deep subject, and we need to talk a lot more. Everybody here needs to talk a lot more. But let's now focus on what are some tangible things we can do. What are some actual solutions? So I'd like to ask everyone to pull out their phones again. Pull out your phones. We're going to do another poll question. And it is, how do we solve the environmental challenges of today through youth engagement? The options are: businesses need to take more responsibility, government needs to implement the right policies, consumers need to shift their buying habits, or all of the above.
Well, I think we all are in agreement we need all of the above, right? Yeah. Let's just.
So let's just dig in. So, Hugh, we've heard, from snippets from folks here about how important it is to vote with our dollars. You're uniquely placed to talk about this because you've invented an app which acts like a Fitbit for tracking your environmental footprint. So what's your take on this topic?
Thanks, Miranda. So there have been a few interesting interventions on the point of business, both from voting with a dollar, but also, well, we're joining these organizations now. And I think as young people, it's quite obvious that the way business is done now, where profit is put before environmental and social good, well, that's not a model that exists in our vision for the future. So first of all, when we're joining organizations, we need to demand more than just a token corporate social responsibility program, and look for organizations that fully align their economic and their environmental targets. And by that I mean that for every financial target, there needs to be an environmental one that they're held accountable to that's tied to it. And all week, we've listened to great talks from the likes of the World Bank, nonprofits, and even the private sector, mentioning terms like triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. But put quite simply, in a young person's terms, the time for businesses that exist solely to generate profit for the shareholders has come and passed. So we need to move past that. And then moving on to the voting with a dollar and what we can do right now. So I completely agree with the comments saying that the youth need to start shifting the markets, but it's definitely going to be a combination of market pull and regulation push. And something that makes it very difficult for somebody to vote with their dollar at this point of time is that the way it's set up is not to help us make conscious choices when we shop. It's to make us buy things we simply don't need. So anybody in industry who's present here, there's a huge opportunity to share sustainability information about your products. For example, we work in the food industry, and companies like Unilever, Nestle carry out detailed life cycle assessments of the products they produce. And now they've got this great opportunity to share it with us so we can make more sustainable choices. And if we're to look at Sustainable Development Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, if businesses continue to withhold information that allows us to make more sustainable choices, well, they're simply not complying with the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Hugh. Yeah, so the importance of policy, innovation, and also industry supporting all of that is really important, and you've just talked about that a little bit. So Kaya, this next question is for you. How do the leaders of our countries and policymakers need to support the small businesses who are creating purposeful impact?
Thanks, Miranda. Yeah, from my perspective, I really do think it's going to be a three-prong approach. I really think that consumers have a role to play. I also think that businesses have a role to play, and I also think that government has a very strong role to play, and they can lead us there. as the creator of Novel Supply Co., a sustainable and ethical clothing brand in Vancouver, BC, basically what I'm doing and being at the forefront of a sustainable fashion movement, it's all really exciting to be a part of. It's also comes with a lot of challenges for a small brand like mine. Just for example, when I'm sourcing fabric, for example, because I'm sourcing the most premium organic cotton and hemp fabric that I can find, and you know, sourcing the most sustainable threads and inks and everything, I'm taking everything to the next level. It's really challenging for me to have a product that is priced at a point where people are going to buy it over the fast fashion brands. And I think that's where policy can really come into play. I think that if we have the right extended producer responsibility policies in place where they are being held, the bigger brands who are making the most waste and using all the resources, if they're held accountable for their harm that they're doing to the environment, then I think that there will be a huge shift with the bigger brands. They'll be able to start really designing with the end in mind and start thinking of the end of life of their products as opposed to just making whatever's going to sell as quickly as possible. And then I believe that by charging them and by kind of charging them the extended producer responsibility, then the funds from that can then be redistributed to the small brands like mine who are really trying from a grassroots level to try and make a difference and try to do everything in my ability to make everything as sustainable as possible. So that's kind of what I had to say. That's pretty much, yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks, Kaya.
So I think it's time that Amina and our other UN VIPs, you have to run to another event. But thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time tonight and look forward to working with you to make a better world. Thank you.
So,
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
She says, for all you interns out there, she's going to take up the issue on your behalf. And I'd like to open it to the sponsor of tonight's event. You all might not know this, but we are here, and the Young Champions program exists thanks to Covestro. Yeah, please, Covestro. They're one of the world's largest chemical companies, and so I'd like to ask the members from Covestro to tell us, why would a huge chemical company want to support this program? Why do you guys care about youth making change in the world?
No. Okay. Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Owen. I'm from Covestro. And first of all, I'm deeply humbled to be here with you all today, as well as excited. This is the third year that Covestro has sponsored Young Champions of the Earth. And for me personally, I love it. I absolutely love this concept. I love being part of this. And I think, and you mentioned earlier, Miranda, about the role of industry in youth engagement. And I don't think industry does nearly enough to benefit from youth engagement. Not just my industry, but I think globally. In terms of what we're doing with Young Champions of the Earth, it's very much a two-way street. We benefit hugely from the dialogue that we've got with these young people, be it through their disruptive ideas, or through simply by pushing us out of our comfort zones and making us, push our boundaries further. On the flip side of that, what we bring to the table is a lot of experience. We've also got a global workforce of nearly 17,000 people, and I can tell you now that since we launched this 3 years ago, everything we do in communications with the Young Champions gets the most likes on our intranet, it gets the most hits on our social media, because people feel engaged and they feel really emotionally connected with what we're doing. I think another point that I'd like to make is that on industry side, you've got a huge amount of mentors. You know, at Covestra alone, in the first round of the competition, we had over 300 mentors who put their hands up straight away to say they wanted to be part of this. They wanted to give their time, their knowledge, their expertise to make sure that these young people make a success. And I think that, you know, with what you guys are doing, it's absolutely fantastic, but I think industry still needs to learn more from the youth. I'd like to get, sorry, thank you, I've had the drum. I'd like to get your view on whether you think industry is doing enough to help you. I can see some head shaking now. I'd be really interested to know why. But we would like to continue this relationship, and I really look forward to seeing what this year's crop of young champions brings to the table.
Thank you, Rachel. So, Mo, do you have something to say to that?
I did shake my head really. Yeah. Well, that's a point one of my colleagues from the GEO process, the Global Environment Outlook report mentioned, and I'm just bringing it to you on her behalf. There are many young farmers out there who want to practice sustainable farming, and everyone says agriculture is the main economy component that needs to be improved upon if climate change issues need to be resolved. But they're often constrained by outdated policies and free market principles, and these big fish eaters in the market who do not give chance to young farmers who would be willing to take up new innovative agriculture practices instead of traditional farming practices. So we really need to start thinking of how we could create this conducive policy and industry environment. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we all know that it's very difficult for us to make this change. Climate change seems so huge. It's a daunting task for us as young people to get involved and to really feel like we make a difference. You know, we watch as our world leaders go to COP after COP after COP, and even UNEA after UNEA, and they're trying to figure out how we're going to keep our planet warming to just 2 degrees. But they want to do it without shaking up the economy too much. They have the big bully on the playground, the United States in the corner, you know, getting mad whenever anybody tries to make any real substantive change. And for us youth, that's simply not going to cut it. It's not going to be enough for what we need to do in our lifetimes. And so what can we do? You know, we are the largest group of people on this planet. We have the power to make our voices heard. We need to join together and create a shared vision of how we want to change the world and where we need to go. By doing that, we can inspire ourselves, and we could demand that our governments and institutions make the changes we need. It's up to us, and I hope we can work with the current leaders and industry execs to make the world that we want to grow old in. And with that, I'm going to turn to the final poll of the evening, which asks what we individually are going to do between now and the next UNEA to ensure that we can move forward and make a difference in climate change. We'll get that up and running. While we do, I'd like to invite Lewis or Nadia, would you be able to share your opinion on just how important it is for youth to be engaged in this movement and how we can really make an impact?
Yes, hi. I sit here and I have combined feelings of incredible shame. Incredible shame. And if there is anyone in this room who is above the age of 30 who does not feel shame, there's something clearly wrong with you. At the same time, I feel incredible hope. Yeah? I've been speaking about environmental issues since the early 90s, from the time that I've realized that I had a voice. But there's been many times where I've been really disappointed and heartbroken and wanted to give up. But my message to you is just don't give up. But at the same time, the so-called mentors that we expect the youth to take actually can learn a lot from you. We and our generation have a lot to learn from you, and if only we can step out of our egos for a short while to be able to do that, I think it could mean so much to all of the incredible power that you have to bring to change the world. And it is, my eldest son is 24. I have a 16 and I have an 11-year-old. And I tell all of my kids not to have children because this world absolutely cannot sustain them.
We're moving on after this. No problem.
So I'm very sorry on behalf of everybody else who's come before you for all of the crap that we've left you.
I think we have time. Thank you very much. We have time for one more comment for the rest of the evening.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lewis, would you like to say something really quickly, actually, before we jump? Then in the green right there would be great.
Thank you very, very much. My name's Lewis Pugh. I'm the United Nations patron for the oceans. I'm an endurance swimmer. I've been swimming now for 32 years. And in 32 years, I have seen our oceans change completely. Okay? The big changes which are taking place to the north of us in the Arctic. When I first swam in the Arctic, the water, and this is right on the edge of the Arctic ice pack, the water was 3 degrees centigrade. When I swam there 2 years ago, the water was 10 degrees centigrade. So it's gone from 3 to 10 in just 12 years. That will impact every single person on this planet, every future generation, and the whole of the animal kingdom. I want to speak to you here today, those of you who have got fire in your belly. If you look to institutions to create change, it'll never happen. It has never, ever happened in history. Institutions move too slowly. They cannot respond quick enough to change. The real change which has taken place as a result of passionate individuals who stand up and say, I want to create change, and build small teams of people around them and then drive that change hard and have the grit and determination to keep on going despite all the odds. I saw this as a young boy growing up in South Africa with Nelson Mandela. I saw it with Desmond Tutu. I've seen it with Jane Goodall. People who are passionate. So I urge you to find that passion inside you. Don't look towards institutions, and learn how to create and be creative to tell your story in a way in which the adults really listen and understand the severity. Let me just leave you with one final thought, and that is this. I explained that I've been swimming in the Arctic now for many, many years. When I went recently to the Arctic, the scientists are expecting that over the next 12 years, the Arctic will be largely free of sea ice in the summer months. Okay? That has happened on my watch. That has happened on my watch. That'll completely change this world. Wherever you are in this world, it'll completely change this world. I urge you, please, to help us. We need your help. We need your help to really get this message out of the speed of change, and that we need action, and that we need action now. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you for those words. we're told that we actually have 10 more minutes. We were given a little bit more time. So what I think would be good, we'll take some questions. You know, we'll really freestyle those, take some questions. Anybody here is fair game. And then let's put the poll questions back up on the screen. I know it might not be working, but then at the end, we'll let everybody have a show of hands for what are you going to take away as your personal commitment from this event. So, yes, we promised you the mic.
In the green there.
Yep, in the green.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this convening this meeting, but I want to ask one question. I don't know if we've been honest with ourselves, because at the end of the day, we are not one youth. At the end of the day, we don't know how to work together. We've been given such a small space, and scarcity causes conflict. When you're given such a small space as a huge constituent, when you're given such a small space as youth who are not the same, what do you expect? When a young person in this field, whether you're a young champion or anyone here, you know how hard you have fought. You know how hard you have sacrificed. You know what you had to do to get where you had to get. And when you finally get there, can you even think of anyone else? When you finally get to the space that you've gotten because you have fought so hard, the system is created for you not even to think about anyone else, to not even reach back and help those who are too scared to spread their wings to fly. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. We're talking about the wrong thing. Right now, we should be talking about how can we get together. How are we sitting here and I've not seen half of the people here during the conference in the rooms fighting for youth? How is it that we're sitting here and we're not talking about what is it that divides us? What is it that does not allow us to be together? What is it that is stopping us to connect and to actually create this global movement, to create this global change as young people? We're told to be disruptive, but then when you are disruptive, you are cast aside. When you're disruptive, you're not chosen. When you're disruptive, you're not given the chance. When you raise your voice, you're told you're too ambitious. And so we have to be honest with ourselves when we talk about the youth voice, when we talk about the youth space, when we talk about the future. The future is about coming together, breaking the arrogance, breaking the pride, breaking the things that stop me and you coming together.
Thank you.
As I close, we need to be honest with ourselves. We don't have time to only have individual action. Look within yourself and ask yourself, why can I not work with the person to my left or to my right? Ask yourself, what is stopping you from bringing young people together? Because the people in power, the people under 35, you are in the position to say, you know what? It's not enough that I'm here. There are more people who need to come. Open the door and let others in.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Since we don't have too much time, we have a lot of people who want to say things. Let's should we just get people make a line maybe so we don't have to waste so much time passing the mic around?
We got a mic here though, right next to her, please.
Hi, my name is Claire from Greenpeace and IFSA, and I agree with what Peter Moll is saying. Why are we having these conversations here? Why can't we have this forum in the rural areas? How many of us here have watched the movie, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, in Malawi? That was an invention done in a rural area. Why can't we have these conversations in rural communities where young people who are being innovative, are currently based? They cannot access here. This is a very high event for them to access. Why can't we take this space to them and let them speak and voice up their opinions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe one more is what we have time for here. I saw your hand was up for a while in the black there.
Thank you so much. My name is Judith Mongeri from Kenya, and I'm very impressed with what she said, actually. I've been raising my hand because I wanted to air the same issues. But the question maybe I need to pose is, what are we doing differently exactly? We are youth, yes, but what are we doing differently that is different from what we've seen from our older? We are sitting in the panel, we're doing the same thing, right? And then we are going ahead to write these in proposals, we do the write-ups there in the websites, and then what? I'm pissed with the way in the morning I was in the ministerial meeting, and I felt bad because they never gave us a moment to speak. I know it was round table, but whatever they're discussing is about me. That's when you ask that my fellow colleague, that how are we going to make sure that youth can do things differently? We, the youth, we propose the policy and we implement ourselves. Who is this who's going to be in charge of the funds that are going to implement these policies? This is where we fail. We talk about issues, but we don't implement them ourselves. And something else that I'm from the communications background, and I'm thinking, how about to make some animations? Tell as it is. How about to make be it a movie or clip for 5 minutes, and he is good at social media. We use the social media to tell the future, what we think will happen, the way Luis, I think he said his name is Luis, what he said that, what he has seen so far. So he knows the future, he knows what is going to happen next. How about make animations, show us the reality, what is going to happen. These are the kinds of things that we can resonate with. We don't read anymore, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I know there's a lot of hands in the audience. We do not have time to get to you all, unfortunately. We're being told we can do one more back here, waving her hands, and then we have to move on. I'm sorry for the rest of you.
Hi, my name is Dolphin, and I'm very disappointed. I've been raising up, but thank you for the opportunity. Okay, where do I start? We all talk about, mainstreaming all these policies, mainstreaming youth into all these laws that big people, basically, who are not going to be there in the next 12 years are making. I'm tired of this talk of, let's engage the youth. I'm tired of this, let's give youth space and opportunity. Personally, I feel it is time for youth to actually have a stake. Let me expound on what I mean by have a stake. When a group of government officials basically are seated down and making NDCs, let's just start from the basic, nationally determined contribution. I come from Kenya. For the climate change NDCs in Kenya, we have a 30% goal, which we're gonna meet in 2030. We're supposed to meet in 2030. In 2030, right now I'm like 23. I'll be like 35, around there. You know, I'll be exiting the youth space. Your governments are making goals, basically. I'm sorry, I don't have anything against the government, but you're making goals for us without us. And so far,
thank you.
So far, you know, I get really pissed. And so far, what you're doing, it's not working, basically, because IPCC said we had 12 years last year. To me, it means this year we have 11 years. 11 years to go, and you're making unsustainable goals, unsustainable NDCs.
Thank you.
So my take, before I finish, my take is simple. When you're going to make, I think someone should tell this to the rest of the governments and all the decision makers. When you're setting the NDCs, ensure that young people are there. Ensure that the young person says, is at the table to say, I don't feel as if like the 30%, goal is enough. I feel you should make it 60. And I'm tired of this, the government is not doing that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No.
Let me finish.
We have to move on.
The last one. Let me finish. I feel we should not just say the set targets are not enough. We should also have a stake. We should say out of the 60% emission, as young people, we are gonna contribute towards, let's say, 10%, basically. That's when change is gonna actually come to be in this field of environment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Let me make one point. So we have to wrap up. Sorry, thank you all for your contributions. It was great to get the audience engaged. Before we end, I would just like to note how many empty seats there are in the beginning here of the Youth to Power, the discussion we're having with the powerful people in the room, who many of whom didn't show up, many of whom have already left. Thank you for those of you who are still here, but I think it's very indicative of what we're trying to get at tonight. What we're doing as youth is not really working quite yet. We need to make our voices heard. We need to get out in the streets. We need to march. There's a big strike happening on Friday, and perhaps we should strike from the UN as well.
So I think it's really obvious all the passion that's in every single person's voice here, and how we're just, we don't have enough time. We need to have more dialogue like this to bring youth to power. So to wrap up, let's put that poll question on the screen. I just want to see you guys, when I'm going to read out what the options are, and for each person, you may do all of them. Oh, okay, they're all here. So let's still do this. Raise your hand if your one action is going to bring one youth member to the assembly. And thank you for that.
Awesome.
And similarly, for joining young people in buying sustainable products and voting with your wallet. And thank you all for doing that. And educating yourself about youth engagement. And finally, include a youth representative on your management team. We're going to hold all of you accountable for that. So thank you all for being with us tonight. We're deeply honored to share our stories and inspiration and progress, and to make some sound suggestions for environmental protection going forward. For the ministers who are in the room or were in the room, we hope you didn't just listen. If you're working for one of these ministers, let them know what we talked about here today and the passion that was in every single person's voice. And we hope that moving forward, these ministers on our behalf will bring all of this into the resolutions. But I think what we heard here tonight was even more than that. We've got to stand up for ourselves and not only take our place at the table, but we have to put ourselves in places where we create and shape this future. We have to stand up and do that for ourselves. So that message is really clear here, and everybody here, it is up to you to be part of that change. So as we close, I want to bring you this video from Connect for Climate. We hope you've heard us, for the adults in the room, and that you're confident that youth and young people today can lead your children and grandchildren. What will you do differently tonight or tomorrow?
Thank you. I'm being told that tomorrow there's a Friday for the Future movement at 1:30 p.m. for all youth in Karura Forest, and I'll be there. I hope you guys can join me. We're doing the video?
Yep. So let's roll the video, and if I can invite the panelists to come downstage.
I'm from Orange, California. From New Zealand. Brooklyn, New York.
From Bahrain, occupied Yokit's territory. And I am Youth Unstoppable. I urge folks here at the Global Climate Action Summit to imagine a better world.
There's no time to waste.
It's time for ambition. It's time to step up. It's time for action.
It's time for ambition, and it's
time to step up.
It's time to act on climate. It's time to act on climate.
On climate.
Let's imagine a better world and actually put forward policies and actual labor to make it happen.
It's time.
It's time to step up.
It's time to step up.
To step up.
To step up.
We're the next leaders.
We're the next leaders.
And we're unstoppable. We are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. We're Youth Unstoppable.
We're unstoppable.
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 Youth are unstoppable.
And we're going to end the evening on a high here. I hope it'll be fun. You'll all get out of your seats. We're bringing on stage Alex Paulin, the founder of Conservation Music, as well as my good friend Shady Rabab, the young champion of the earth from Africa, and Peter the djembe master from the Dandora Music. And they're going to end everything with a little bit of music. Hopefully we can all get out of our seats and start jamming. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, how's everybody feeling tonight? Oh, you can do better than that. How's everybody feeling tonight? This is the big night, everybody. We're all filled up on mocktails and inspiration. Let me hear it one more time. How are you feeling tonight? All right. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very, very grateful to be here. I'm very, very grateful to UN Environment, to Covestro, to everyone involved in making this event possible, and I'm very grateful to be able to share a song that I wrote with you. I'm the founder of a movement called Conservation Music. What we're doing is gathering a global movement of musicians and youth-led chapters of volunteers to deliver environmental education through the power of music. Working with brothers like Shadi here, and Peter, and Ricky Kesh, if he's still in the room. This is a song that I wrote about being a young person trying to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders when, as we've heard tonight, we don't have a lot of time left and we're going to be the ones to face the consequences. It's not easy, but if we work together, we can find the solutions. This is called Weight of the World. Thank you very much. Said you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, just like they told you to do. I know you're still young, but it's time to grow older. You can do. Into the unknown, weight of the world. All right, let's get you young people up here, all right? I need some backing vocals behind me. All right, you guys know how to clap your hands, right? Let's get some hand clapping. Yeah, that's right. If you're under 30 and you're not on this stage, I'm going to play that drum at you. Into the unknown, weight of the world. Oh, you. Into the unknown, weight of the world. Oh, you. Into the unknown, weight of the world. everybody a Shadi Rabab on the plastic bottle flute. Said you carry the weight of the world on your shoulder, just like we told them to do. I know we're still young, but it's time to grow older. You can do. Oh, you into the unknown, weight of the world. Oh, you into the unknown, weight of the world. Oh, you into the unknown, weight of the world. Shadi Rabab, Peter the drum master, and the most inspiring young choir I've never worked with, but we got to do this again sometime. Thank you guys. I'm Alex Paulin from Conservation Music. Into the unknown weight of the world, if we work together, and we really do, we can tackle some of these problems together. Thank you so much.
soki olingi otikala na zamba esengeli na yo mwana na yo mwana esengeli